What is going on, everyone? You are tuned into the Invested in Hockey podcast. Today is episode 38. It is November 27th, 2024. My name is Anthony Santini. I am joined here with,
Eric Wilson.
and today we are going to be focused on the Four Nations Faceoffs and the projections as announcements are soon to be released. I know, Eric, you want to get into that. We have a couple months until the Four Nation Faceoff kicks off, but with the rosters being announced very soon, I know the conversation will begin. So, without further ado, if you want to start us off here.
Yeah, super excited to have this episode. I know that call it 6 months ago, we were chatting about what this tournament was even all about. Then we discussed how, it's in Montreal and Boston and how that's kind of exciting for Americans and Canadians alike. But we're gonna get into these four nations rosters, starting with Canada, then going to USA before leaving off with Sweden and Finland. And we'll do that in a few minutes, but I think it was really nice to project these rosters and get a little critique in there because at the end of the day, there's going to be a few announcements on Wednesday, December 3rd that we didn't expect. And when I was looking at this, I think that really comes in the goalie category, but it relies on the players and the defense too. I think with there being
Mhm.
one extra player and one extra forward, one extra defenseman. There's a little wiggle room, but because it's kind of just strictly three goalies, I think there's going to be the one guy who's call it left out, and or you want to maybe say snubbed. But really excited to get into this. I think there's maybe two little things we'll discuss first, and um one of them we'll talk is our quick fantasy recap. So how's your matchup going in fantasy this week, Sans?
It's going good. I'm up 9-1 in categories right now. It's definitely something that I expected to be a position that, I'm happy, I guess, but obviously there is 10 categories, so, job's not finished. And, when you're facing such a weak opponent like Murray's team, let's just say it's a very easy week. I don't even know if I set my lineup yet. I'll probably do it maybe later. Not too much to think about because his team's not very talented, so we'll be good this week.
Oh, that's great to hear. I was hearing a bit of complaining on your opponent's side about goaltending and how you can't win a week when someone stinks the bed or when someone has a big 4-1 win over their
Yeah.
opponent. But hey, enough complaining from some people. I can tell you that I've been setting my lineup because I don't have the easy opponent or at least the easy opponent feeling, but I'm up 5-2 in my matchup here, so a bit of
Dang.
a close one, but feeling good with two starts tonight, one from Jacob Markstrom and one from Sergei Bobrovsky. So those are my two netminders. I don't have any additional netminders at the moment. So got to ride the two guys you trust and really back them. So I'm excited to get into this Four Nations thing and let's start her off with Team Canada if you're ready to hear him, Sans.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So I should do a little disclaimer. These are fully my opinions and not coming from any like sort of I want to say like website/projection thing. This is again, if there's someone big that I forget, you'll see why. So we'll start off with line one on Canada here. I've got Lafreniere with Connor McDavid and Connor Bedard. I don't think there's any surprises there in terms of talent, all first overall picks. Line two, I've got the Nova Scotia line. I got Marchand with McKinnon and Crosby.
Hmm.
Line three, a bit of chemistry here. I've got Stamkos with Braden Point and Sam Reinhart. And on the fourth line here, a little more chemistry I'd agree with here, but I've got Scheifele with John Tavares and Mitch Marner. So those are the 12 forwards that should be, in my eyes, starting the tournament on the ice for game one. And that leads me into my defenseman here. I've got Kyle McCarr playing with Devon Tays on the line one. I've got Josh Morrissey with Alex Pietrangelo on line two, and I have Shea Theodore with Evan Bouchard on line three there. I'll share my two extras before you kind of do your analysis there too, but I have Noah Dobson and Matt Barzal as the two extras at the moment, leading my goaltenders. This was the one thing I was changing probably every couple weeks for the past few weeks, but I have Jordan Binnington as the starter with Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill as the other two.
Pretty sweet. I mean, the roster, there's a couple names I saw you have noted that there is no Stuart Skinner and there is no Zach Hyman. A funny conversation too, because I was talking to our buddy George about the goaltending situation. We were looking at FanDuel actually. Shout out FanDuel for being a top end gambling website, and they had Marc-Andre Fleury at plus 10,000 odds. So he actually ended up tossing $5 on Fleury because we were talking about how they could be in a situation right now with that 3-4 goalie tandem of Binnington, Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill, and Stuart Skinner, where maybe you just kind of want to have that safe bet on Marc-Andre Fleury, what you're used to. A little bit of a hot take from George, and obviously a really big reach being at plus 10,000 odds. Great odds to take a player of his caliber. I don't really see Fleury making the team, but the goalie situation on Canada, I think, is probably one of the worst in the tournament. I mean, obviously in the US, which we will get to, and
Yeah.
I'll have a comment about that. I'll save it. Sometimes I think it's better to have a standout goalie than four good goaltenders to pick through. And for right now, Canada, I think Aiden Hill's going to be the starter. That's my personal opinion. But I agree with that three. I don't see Stuart Skinner making this team, and I totally agree. Bennington, Logan Thompson, and Aiden Hill, I'm totally cool with that. Looking at the forwards right now, I don't think Hyman should be on the team. Believe he will be. I actually believe it was announced he was one of the six guys that is on the team because they had to announce six. I could be wrong, but on FanDuel they did have him as minus 1800, so really big odds for him to make the team. I don't think he should be on the team though. He only has 3 goals right now after one of the biggest NHL career seasons that he had last year. I don't think he should make the team. I think he will. Two very different things.
Interest,
But
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say I'd love to hear what our viewers think on him. He's kind of that like 50-50 at the moment, where I'm sure half people are like locked in on him playing with McDavid, and the other half are like, no, don't put him on the roster, right?
yeah, I mean, and that's one of the biggest reasons why too, right? Because if you're going to have him on the roster, it's only going to be up to McDavid if he wants to play with him. I'd be very surprised if McDavid came out and said, I don't want to play with him, or maybe don't take him to be on my line. I'd rather play with someone
Yeah,
like Lafreniere and Marner,
yeah,
maybe as an example. But I believe I want to double check too. They did have him at minus 1800, but no, I do think that's a pretty good list of
yeah,
names, and I'm interested who you have for the US.
yeah. Very excited for the U.S. as well. This was one where I think that the top line here is very intriguing, and I think um, the possibilities on this top line are just like Canada's, where you have so many options. But I'm gonna start off with a sniper here in Kyle Connor, along with Austin Matthews and Matthew Tkachuk. So I've got the three of them right there. Um, a line that could look a lot different. You could really do a lot of things by putting maybe the Tkachuk brothers together, or you put Matthews with two completely different wingers like skill guys. But that leads me into my second line, which has Jack Hughes on the wing with Jack Eichel and Jason Robertson. This is followed by my third line in Brady Tkachuk, Tage Thompson, and Cole Caulfield, which leads me into a fourth line here, which is very controversial but interesting. Matt
Hmm.
Boldy with Dylan Larkin and Patrick Kane. So that rounds out my 12 forwards. There will be one extra, which I'll mention in about 30 seconds, but I'll go on to my defense here. A pair that I really am excited to watch here is Quinn Hughes and Charlie McAvoy. I think they're going to complement each other so well. Just with the fact that Hughes is, a little unreliable defensively, but he's such a good skater like McAvoy. So I'm excited for that. Then I have Jacob Slavin with Adam Fox, followed by Zach Werenski, who is who's got to make the team this year, and Brock Faber. So those are the six defensemen. I'll go into the extras quick, along with my three goalies here. So I have Jake Sanderson as an extra defenseman. Again, that's a whole could be its whole own topic. He's been fine this year. And then I have JT Miller as an extra as well, who is in a really interesting spot, but I don't see him not making the roster at all. So in net, this should be a no-brainer for anyone at this time, but I have Hellebuck starting, followed by Ottinger and Swayman as the second and third. So now time for your thoughts, Sans.
I mean, I do agree with most of the roster. I feel like it's tough to make a lot of mistakes when you have players like Cal Connor, Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, Jack Hughes, Eichel, Robertson. Brady Tkachuk, Tage Thompson, I low-key think is a hot take because he had a tough year last year, but he's been really good this year. As long as he's healthy, he should make this roster. Caulfield's been playing good. I think he should make this roster. Boldy's been playing well, Larkin too. Patrick Kane, I definitely don't agree with. I still think you're kind of holding on to that take of last year because he's just been really bad this year. I don't think he makes a team at all. Like there's zero chance he makes a team. Um,
No, man. No. No,
I
you
mean,
can't do that.
we could look to odds too, right? Because there's just so many better players in a 4-day tournament that could be better for this team. Like the first one that you noted was Jake Guentzel, and I think that Jake Guentzel is a way better player than Patrick Kane is right now. That's just the way it is, and that's coming from a big Patrick Kane fan too. I don't think there's any way that Patrick Kane makes the roster.
It's tough to say. I think that he's got to make the team just because at the end of the day, he's still currently the best American-born player who's played up to this moment. That doesn't mean he will be in 10, 20 years, but I think Kane's got to be there and he's got to be a captain or assistant captain. I know he hasn't had a good season, but he's great on the power play. He's 100% a guy who has great vision. He has the track record too, but I just see it as a veteran presence there where you look at the roster, look how young that team is. Where's the
Yeah.
veteran presence, right? Like look at the top 12. I don't think anyone's over the age of 30 except for Patrick Kane. So because you don't have a guy like Joe Pavelski around anymore, he's retired. You have guys like Blake Wheeler who are pretty much retired. In
hmm
my mind, you can't have a full forward roster there that's under the age of 30, and maybe that'll change your mind to hear that. But is there anyone else on the roster you question?
I kind of question as of right now. I mean, I like everything else. I agree with everything else. That was kind of like the one player where I'm kind of like indifferent about it. As of right now, I think that Jeremy Swayman won't be a member of this team. That won't surprise me at all. Swayman's had a very tough year. He currently has, I believe it's a 3.16 goals against average and a .88 save percentage, which is very terrible. I mean, I think that someone like Anthony Stolarz could come in as a third goaltender who I know the name value isn't great and all, but he's just been phenomenal for the Leafs. He faces off against the Florida Panthers tonight, and we will be watching that game. And I think he's going to be lights out because he's been lights out all year. He's been amazing. And I think that he could sneak in as a third goaltender. It's been very tough for Swayman right now. Very tough this year. And I know he's a great goaltender, but if he doesn't start picking it up, I know when are rosters due? Do you have the date?
Wednesday, December. They're announced Wednesday, December 3rd, a week from now.
Yeah, and like he hasn't shown anything at all, and I don't think even if he were to go back to back to back shutouts, if he were to start right now, that would make him a member of this team because I don't see him starting in any of these games over any of these goaltenders. Because as of right now, like I said in the last conversation, Hellebuck should be the standout goaltender, and everyone else is just if you want to give them a start or not. And I don't think you would start Swayman against any of these teams in front of either Ottinger or Anthony Stolarz. That's kind of my hot take from this roster. Kreider and Besser and John Carlson, I saw you put will not be on this roster. I agree with that. But that's kind of my hot take for the goalies. I think the goalies are going to be Andra Hellebuck and Anthony Stolarz.
All right, I appreciate bringing in the hot take, and I know you're fully right. We're going to be watching Stolarz play against his former team tonight, so that'll be a good goalie matchup, Bob versus Stolarz tonight. We'll move on to our Sweden roster, which has a bit less controversy just because of the depth that Sweden hockey has in the NHL, right? So I'll go over the forwards again, defensemen, my two extras, which are so tough to make, and then I'll go over the three tendies, which are pretty insane tendies at the moment. So starting it off with Philip Forsberg on the wing, guy who scored over 90 points before, playing with Zibanejad and William Nylander. I'll go on to line two with a nice second year player here in Leo Carlson, playing with Eriksson Ek and Lucas Raymond. I think you need that sniper in Raymond there for sure. We go on to the line three here, which I have Elias Pettersson centering Jesper Bratt and Adrian Kempe. And line four here, My boy William Eklund has to make the team here with
Hey.
Backlund and Rickard Rakell. So those are my 12 forwards at the moment. Moving on to D, a pretty dream pair here. I mean, you could say a few years ago it would have looked a little cooler, but I've got Dahlin playing with Erik Karlsson. I have Victor Hedman playing with Matthias Ekholm. And then I have Hampus Lindholm, which there's a lot of Lindholms from Sweden, but I got Hampus Lindholm playing with Gustav Forsling as the third pair. This leads me into the extras here. I got William Karlsson um, as the 13th forward. I know he's got the cup, he's got a bit of experience, but don't see him making the team just because he's mainly a centerman. And then I've got Jonas Brodin as the seventh defenseman. So those are my two extras. And to top it off with these three goalies, I think there could be a debate that they are the top three goalies as a combination in the tournament. So we have Jacob Markstrom, Linus Ullmark, and Philip Gustafsson as the three goalies.
Yeah, I mean I agree with this lineup pretty much head to toe. Everything looks pretty good for me. Even the one thing I can maybe see is a player like Hoglander, who had a really good year last year, but provides some grit and could make this team, but I don't see who you could really take out. Some of the players here that are just standout players. Philip Forsberg, William Nylander, obviously, Eriksson Ek, who I'm a big advocate for, Jesper Bratt having one of the best careers of his year, Elias Pettersson as well, playing amazing. A very hot take too when me and George were talking about it, and I can't wait to get into more conversations tonight too
Oh
because
yeah.
he seemed like he was really into it. We were having some good convos. So his hot take of the tournament was he thinks that William Nylander will lead the tournament in points because of pretty much their ability to run an offense through William Nylander and his ability to run that offense successfully too. We see when he's on the ice, the puck really follows him and how well he's been playing so far for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. And I kind of agree with that take too, because when you look at someone like the US, how hard it could be for someone like Austin Matthews to lead the tournament when you're pretty much borderline just rolling lines here. So for a team like Sweden, when you really look to focus on someone, you're going to turn to William Nylander every time they're in need of a point or a goal or a big play. So I think that's a very hot take, but a very good take from our buddy George. So shout out Georgie. And yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with this lineup. Head to toe looks pretty good to me.
Oh yeah. I honestly that makes me think. I think top tournament point scorer is going to be one of the coolest things to predict. Especially when it comes, that week before when everyone's kind of, you get the week off of the NHL, we're all going to be kind of just like on our phones looking for something to do. So I think looking into the top point scores would be cool. Curious to think or to hear your thoughts if you agree that Philip Gustafsson and Linus Ullmark and Markstrom are a really good trio there.
I personally would say that the US have a better roster of goalies right now, but even still, I mean, when you can start out Gustafsson too, like he's been really good this year. I think the two main goaltenders are definitely Markstrom, Gustafsson, and then just the way with all that Allmark's been playing, it's a really big fall off here. I don't know if he's going to start a game this tournament because I believe they play only 4 or 5, so I think it's going to swap between Markstrom and Gustafsson. And pretty much when it really comes down to it, I think the big game will go to Philip Gustafsson.
It's fair to say. I think it's nice that these guys are all call it like past that first few years. Gustafsson's in his third or fourth NHL season
Yeah.
where you're not looking at a guy who's a rookie or in his second year. So one thing that I will mention is that when I was looking at some of these previous rosters that we made last year and we made again 6 months ago, a lot of people were like really high on certain guys. One of the guys who a lot of people had in their roster was Jesper Wallstedt, and that
Mm.
meant that Philip Gustafsson would have not been on the roster. But 6 months ago, you could have really projected that and said, okay, Wallsted's going to be the starter by now for Minnesota, which for some reason they haven't given him a game yet. But
Hmm.
kind of interesting because they're both Minnesota goalies, and we've also talked about Fleury. So three guys who aren't guaranteed a spot yet, right?
No, for sure.
Um, anyways, I appreciate your thoughts on Sweden there, and we'll go on to Finland, who I think we can agree before I even say the roster, they don't have any standouts, maybe, or they might have the least excitement going into the tournament. But regardless, it's gonna be great watching every game. So starting it off with Teravainen, Barkov, and Rantanen. as line one, followed by Rupe Hintz, Sebastian Aho, and Patrick Laine. Um, Followed by a nice young third line with Anton Lundell, absolute stud, really underappreciated, with Granlund and Capo Caco. And then we go into our fourth line here, which is a bit of a smaller line. We got Matthias Michelli, Eric Holla, and Arturi Lehkonen. So a solid top 12 there. And going into my defenseman here, we got Miro Heiskanen playing with Rasmus Ristolainen. A nice left shot, right shot duo there. Then we got Esa Lindell with Oli Mata. And then I've got Juuso Välimäki with Harmi Harju. So a bit of a tough bottom pair there, but those are my 6D. And then I've got Nico Mikkola and Eli Tolvanen as my extras there. Mikkola's a pretty big boy. He's really helped Florida last year down the stretch in their cup run and cup success. But those are my two extras. And then I've got Jussi Saros as the clear-cut starter, no doubts, and then Luukkonen and Kakkonen as the second and third goalie there. So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Finland in this tournament is going to be one of the weaker teams for sure. Obviously, that top pair is very good with Heiskanen, Ristolainen, Teravainen, Barkov, and Rantanen. That's obviously a great top pair. Looking at even Hintz, Aho, Line, very good, but it just doesn't have the depth that the stronger teams like Canada and the US have. Like when you look at the fourth lines that we have projected, you could arguably say that Scheifele, Tavares, and Marner, or even Stamkos, Point, and Reinhardt is much stronger than Teravainen, Barkov, Rantanen. I know Barkov and Rantanen, two of the best players in the NHL, you can argue at their position, but when it really comes down to the depths of this team, I think a line like Michelli, Halla, and Lehkonen would really, really struggle, even against going someone like looking at the lines here, Jack Hughes, Eichel, and Robertson. Like I think that line would get chewed up really hard. So I
yeah.
think that Finland's going to struggle, but we'll see because good goaltending could change everything. And if UC Saros can really find his groove, because everything's quick, it's a quick turnaround, quick week, 4 or 5 games. Everything's going to be fast. If you could catch a groove here, I think it's going to be really big. So, me personally, I agree with the lineup. Nothing too much that I would change. If I were to rank these teams for how I think it will go, I think that the Canadians will beat the Americans in the finals, and Sweden will beat Finland to win the bronze. So that's kind of my pick.
Oh yeah. Okay. I like the unit on that. I'm gonna go. This is just my weird thought. I have a feeling that we're not gonna get a Canada USA final. Um,
Okay.
just for the sole reason, I think there'll be a nice upset in the round robin where um it could be Sweden beating Canada, could be Sweden beating the US, but I think that Canada and the US are gonna have to battle it out in the semis. Um, that's just kind of me guessing. Again, we don't know everyone's going to play everyone, but I think Finland's going to um, have a tough semis loss, and I think whoever can play Finland in the semis is going to have a shot. So I really think it's going to be Canada, US, um, and Sweden. And you know what? If you get to the finals, you got a good chance. But the goalie question's huge because, like you said, it's such a fast week. My opinion would be if you are a goalie and you win a game, you're going to keep playing. But
Mhm.
um, obviously, when Canada plays US in the round robin, and let's say Canada beats the US, you're going to have to turn to a second goalie, right? So that's the big like question for me is how would you handle that if you've already played one of your goalies against the team that maybe you play in the semis, right?
No, I definitely agree.
So, yeah, big announcement is that the Four Nations rosters officially release in a week from now.
Cool.
6 p.m. I think is the last roster, and I think the first two are like Sweden and Finland. So we're gonna have to wait till 6-ish. But yeah, we got a big Wednesday night of hockey getting going. I know we got some of the boys coming over tonight. We're gonna have some fun, have a nice beer, and enjoy some hockey. So thank you to everyone for listening, and I think our next episode is going to be a bit more fantasy focused. So yeah.
Yeah, appreciate everyone for listening. I actually want to take the last second of the pod, did this in our other pod too. This will be the last episode where we have our Movember stashes. So just want to shout out everyone participating in Movember. We're actually going to drop the link to our buddy Aiden Thompson's Movember where you could go and donate. If you are listening and you want to donate $1, you want to donate $10, click the link. He's been doing it for a couple years and we've been growing out the stashes. So shout out men's mental health. We're big advocates for it, and we appreciate everyone for listening as well. And we'll drop the link, so make sure to take a look.
100%. Well said, Anthony. And we'll see you guys later.